these metabolic and toxic and bacteriological and gut-related, these systems are systems that go awry and that have beautiful reversibility. So this old idea, people, when I first sent the first paper we published was back in 2014 showing reversal of cognitive decline, and people just said it's impossible. If anyone had reversed cognitive decline in Alzheimer's, it would be in all the papers around the world. Well, maybe it should have been. We're doing it again. We've got thousands of people now who've been on this. But just as you said, the neurologists will say, no, I can't believe it. That's not possible, because they're still looking at this as the old-fashioned way of, oh, there's a misfolded protein. Let's remove the misfolded protein. Well, why do you think that's there? It's part of this overall network alteration. And by the way, we came to this originally because we were studying the cellular and molecular signaling of amyloid precursor protein, APP, which is the thing associated with Alzheimer's disease. It's the parent of the little hunk of peptide which makes amyloid. And so what we found is this thing is a remarkable molecular switch. When things are good, it's on the good side. It's being cut at one site. It's telling you, yes, grow, make synapses, maintain synapses. When things are bad, you have infections. You've got poor dentition, all these things that are getting into your brain. It goes into a protective downsizing mode, again, just as our countries did during the pandemic. And it now makes the amyloid, which, guess what? Kills bacteria. It kills fungi. It kills viruses. So you can see why this stuff is made. You're not making it to give yourself Alzheimer's, making it to protect yourself. But of course, it's one of the things it's doing is saying you can't support a brain with 500 trillion synapses.
Exactly.
So you have to find out those things, look at them, and that's why we do the first layer of tests. Then the idea is you look to see which ones are abnormal, because you don't need to do the second layer on everybody. That's going to, you're going to end up with $1 million workup. You don't need
Now,
that.
before you get there, I just want to make a comment. So the amyloid beta is actually a downstream effect of what's actually happening from a biochemical aspect in your brain. It's the body's response to what's actually happening.
Absolutely. It is a response, and it's quite an important one because it is an antimicrobial peptide. It is protecting you. And no surprise, we've seen a number of people who, as I mentioned earlier for Sally, went in, and as they started to remove the amyloid, they got worse. So when you're removing that, it's very much like removing a protective cytokine. So if you go back again to the pandemic, so there's some beautiful analogies here. So you go to the pandemic, what did people die of? People died of cytokine storm. You had the insult, but in fact, it turns out that SARS-CoV-2 has specific mechanism to prevent you from an early response, which is why basically your body does okay for a little while, and then ultimately it recognizes it, oh my gosh, it's everywhere. So you just pour out these cytokines, of course, trying to kill the virus, but they are damaging to your body as well, and you end up dying from cytokine storm. In Alzheimer's, the same thing happens, but we die from cytokine drizzle. It's just perking along. Your HSCRP is often a little high. Your microglia in your brain are activated. You are activating this because you are trying to clean up this problem. So again, the idea of let's just shut down the response is a 20th century naive view. What we want to determine is, what are you responding to? Unlike in the pandemic, where we were all responding to one virus, you can be responding to dozens and dozens of different things. So you got to figure those out. Is this P. gingivalis from your oral microbiome? Is this a leaky gut? Is this chronic sinusitis? Is this metabolic syndrome? Is this toxin exposure? So we're looking initially across at all of these.
First layer.
Then that's the first layer. Then if you find, here's the problem with this person, then you're going to focus in on that, and then you're going to do additional tests in that area. So when you then start to improve, let's talk about there's specifics and then there's some basics. The basics are 7 things. So it turns out, as you know, that diet, exercise, sleep, stress, brain training, detox, and some basic targeted supplements. That's the way to start for everybody, because that's what's going to optimize your support. You are going to return the normal support to your remarkable synaptic network. And then with that, and again, when I was training in medical school and in residency and in fellowship, there was no belief that things like diet had any effect on brain disease. It was all about, let's find out what's the problem and let's write a prescription for it,
Yeah.
which unfortunately simply hasn't worked for Alzheimer's disease. And again, it's because people are thinking about it the wrong way.